Welcome to RetroLogic episode 100! Woo! Thanks and good night.
We are so excited.
We have 100.
Applause.
We decided for episode 100 we'd have 100 guests on at the same time. And so,
100 beautiful voices.
or at least that's what it's going to sound like to you, so I apologize in advance, but if you've been listening to us long enough, you're not going to care because you know all these characters. I'm just going to go around the horn because we're going to just try to jump right into things here. There's going to be no Price is Retro tonight, no icebreaker, no topic. We're going to be doing the top 10 Super Nintendo games based off of our personal top 10s. So it's this group's top 10 Super Nintendo games. I'm sure nobody's going to agree with it, even us. But that's just how we roll. That's just how we do things. So for starters, we've got John, who's a normie here on RetroLogic. Normie. Talk about a little bit about what you do for RetroLogic and where people can find you on socials, John.
Yeah, so I am a co-host, since there's three of us. We're all kind of hosts.
Co-host.
I run the Price is Retro when we do that on the show. I also have my own show that's a part of our network that's called On Topic Retro, where we talk about a single retro game for a whole show. And we bring guests from the community, from other shows, just from wherever I can find them. And let's see, as far as socials go, I guess I'm mostly on the Discord. I have a Twitter that's On Topic Retro, but I very seldomly use it. I mainly just kind of use it as a platform to announce the episodes when they come out. But other than that, that's kind of what I do.
Awesome. And then on my screen to his right, I have Liam. So Liam hosts Retro Groove with Adam. So go ahead, Liam, talk about Retro Groove and what you guys are up to and where people can find you.
Yeah, so I'm Liam. I'm one half of the Retro Groove podcast, which is a retro music show that Adam and I do. We kind of pick one subject. Music is a pretty expansive subject matter. So we kind of bounce around. We do producers, we do albums, we do genres, we do tech. So if you scroll through our feed of episodes, you're probably going to find something you dig. We go all over the place. We've done Weird Al, we've done hip hop, we've done country. So I don't know, Adam, is there anything I'm missing here? At RetroGroove_pod on socials, right?
Yeah, we do all kinds of stuff, and we try to keep it loosey-goosey and fun and listener-friendly. So if you dig music, just check us out. It's all good.
Yeah, judgment-free zone. You can listen to Nickelback. It's fine.
Judgment-free.
Just not Hinder.
Yeah, well, Hinder I don't know anything about, but I'll still defend Limp Bizkit to this day. It was fun. Yeah.
Good deal. Awesome. And then we have a Solo Something next up.
Yeah, let me know if my reverb gets too bad. Then I'll put a mic on. Yeah, I'm Solo Something. One of the hosts on the. We have Film Logic podcast. We do. We talk about different types of movies. Different types. Sometimes we do a featurette where we talk about just an actor. Sometimes we talk about actress. Sometimes we talk about just a genre. Sometimes we actually have in our Discord debates go down where we actually have done voting on the best Christmas movie. Sometimes we actually ask for feedback where we talk about doing riffs on Bond movies and their names, and you talk about like certain type of actors that have played James Bond. So we're kind of a smorgasbord in the movie universe. And so if you ever listen to us, I mean, we're not just like the same kind of thing every time. We like to mix it up, and there are plenty of episodes out there. Hopefully you can't really tell where they are, where we have absolutely no show notes. We just sit down and we're actually just ad lib, just talking, fellas hanging out and talking. And as far as me personally, I'm in the RetroLogic Discord. I'm also on Nintendo Dads Discord. I'm also a producer for the Nintendo Dads. And so definitely give them a listen. Great show. And me also, I'm on Twitter at Solo Something. And pretty much anywhere in the social metaverse you find me, I'm always Solo Something.
Awesome.
For a second there, I thought you said Tinder instead of, I heard Tendo Dads, but I heard Tinder, and I'm like, wow, he's really just going to throw his Tinder out there, isn't he? That's great.
Yeah, sometimes I talk really fast because my accent. So if y'all just give me a hand motion if you're like, yeah, slow it down and like, dial back the Southern talk. And
You're all good.
No, keep it up.
But,
Keep it up. That's why we love you. That's why we have you.
yeah.
Awesome. Good deal. And then next up is Sam, who's the other co-host of the RetroLogic podcast.
Yes, I am truly the third strongest host of the RetroLogic podcast. I will demonstrate the power of being third to you. But in all seriousness, I mostly do streaming on Twitch at the RetroLogic channel, RetroLogic Games on Twitch. Been working through the Battle Network series. I'll be starting Battle Network 3 soon on the collection that just came out. And I also do the blog, where I have been having loads of fun presenting retrospectives on games from other universes, such as The Legend of Zelda: The Harmonica of Time for the Atari Jaguar, and most recently a game called It's a You Mario. So yeah, that's something you can check out. If that catches your interest.
With a little help from AI, and it honestly just sings. I love those. I love those blog posts are so funny. Awesome. Good deal, Sam. And then last and certainly not least is probably the man, the myth, the legend is the closest thing to say, is Tim Off from the Nintendo Dads joining us as our very special guest tonight. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Tim, and where people can find you.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here, and just as much as a fan as anybody else who listens, I think of RetroLogic and the family of podcasts that goes on here. Every now and then, the Film Logic crew lets me come on to do some stuff there, but that's where I got my foot in the door, I think, to be able to come here. So, but yeah, I am a co-host on the Nintendo Dads as well. Where you'll find most of the stuff that I do over there, as well as some reviews, first looks, videos on their YouTube channel. And then you also find me under NeoPrime33 pretty much anywhere in the internet universe. So, but first and foremost, I'm a fan of all of you guys.
And it's not a letting you on the podcast. We actually gave you a key to the door, so you can let yourself in.
Yeah.
But the last time I tried, it didn't work, and then somebody yelled they changed the locks or something. So I don't know.
Well,
Don't change the locks.
I am the key master and the gatekeeper, so talk to me.
Well, good deal, guys. We got
Okay.
intros done in about under 8 minutes. And if you're unfamiliar with what RetroLogic is, you can go to retrologic.games. That's our website, and there's info on all the podcasts and all of the games we play, and the blog is there, and the merch is there. You can also follow us on on Twitter at RetroLogic Games, and that's me just posting any weird random thing about video games that I can think of. Yesterday I was at a wedding, filming. I film weddings for a living, and I get really bored, and so I said, "Hey, post a game that you didn't finish, and I'll roast you for it." And I got like over 100 replies, and I can't respond to all of them now because people keep wanting to be roasted, and nobody's finished a Final Fantasy game. Apparently, that's what I've learned. So fun stuff like that on my Twitter. Yeah, so go ahead and get in all that. And so we're just going to jump right into the show, guys. And we're going to do kind of a round table situation. We all have our own personal top 10 Super Nintendo games. We're going to start and go around the circle with our number 10. I'm just going to ask that you keep you can obviously say like, oh, I love this game because XYZ, but don't go off for like 20 minutes because there's a lot of us and a lot of games to get through. So just try to keep your comments
I gotta
brief.
change my notes now.
I know, right?
I gotta change my notes now.
Yeah.
No.
And then other than that, let's get to it. And we're going to start with John, because we're going to go around the same horn. And so John's going to tell us his number 10. And that's how we're going to kick it off.
This is probably a game that's not on anybody else's top 10, but it's one of my favorites. It's Evo Search for Eden. This is an Enix game that I randomly picked up at a yard sale in the 90s for like $5, and now it's like a $200 game. But it's it's kind of like an evolution RPG that's real fun.
Awesome.
Nice.
Good deal. How about you, Liam? Your number 10?
Yeah, so my number 10 is a game that I didn't own initially when I was a kid. I would play it at my buddy Ryan's house, which was like my SNES thing in general. Like I just didn't own a lot of SNES games. It was like a weird pocket of time where I didn't have any money. But I kind of steal this game from him a bunch, which is the Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse. His family was very like family friendly kind of thing. He had all like the safer kind of games, and then I had like Jurassic Park or something. And so it's a really great. It was a great platformer. I loved like the costume dynamic. You like swap between 4 costumes. Capcom made Classic for the SNES, which they kind of crushed it with back in the day. I think they did Aladdin and Goof Troop, but this was the kind of character platformer from Capcom that really did it.
So I actually almost put the second one on my list. Magical Quest 2, aka Great Circus Mystery, yeah. Because that one had co-op, which was like even better.
So I bought that not that long ago, but I have yet to try the co-op. So I'm gonna have to stick with the nostalgia on this one. But that is a good call. It's sitting on my shelf.
Sweet. All right.
Cool.
So we're gonna jump over to solo something, and then we'll go to Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my top 10. My number 10. Much like John, I probably say no one probably has this on their list. Is Desert Strike. I picked this one up and I just immediately jammed with it. It's a fun little shooter. You're flying around a little Apache helicopter. I loved it. It's very engaging for like just a little like kind of like shooter war little game, and it kind of made me feel a little bit. Some say maybe stretching here, but a little bit like back to the Atari days of Defender, because you're actually having to rescue people and get them to safety. And so that kind of touched on that, and I really played a lot of Defender. So.
Okay, sweet. And then Sam, go ahead.
So my number 10 is Plock. I actually almost didn't put it on the list. But there's a part of me that really wanted my entire list to be like nothing but these like dark horse titles that are kind of overlooked, but I mean, and I do genuinely like a lot of these games, but at the end of the day, like as I thought about it a little bit more, I'm like, okay, it's credit where credit's due. A lot of these classics that everybody does know are well known for a reason, but all the same, even against everything else I had to exclude, because this was very hard to do, I put Plock in right at number 10 because it felt right, just because, especially in our community, Plock is like the representative of all of those.
I mean, is it a RetroLogic episode if we don't mention Plock somewhere?
Exactly.
I thought you were going to say you wanted your whole list to be just Plock.
Yes. My whole list is Plock. You called it right now. That's 1 through 9, also Plock. Yes.
So that would be Andros if he was on here. Just
10
Plock.
takes on Plock.
Exactly. All right, Adam.
No, I do genuinely really love Plock, so I wanted to give it some credit, and like I said, it is just, it kind of stands in for every other game I wanted to put in that isn't as well known.
There you go.
As well.
All right, Adam, hit your number 10.
So my number 10 is Uniracers. I wanted to make sure that this was mentioned, and there's probably other games that are technically better, but Uniracers I felt like was such a huge part of my upbringing. I remember being at a charter school where they were kind of, loosey-goosey with what you were able to do in between classes, and me and some friends would we kind of took over a small storage closet and set up a Super Nintendo.
What?
And we'd play multiplayer games in between classes and during lunch, and overwhelmingly the game of choice would be Uniracers. There's really nothing else like it. You can't really compare it to anything else. It's an amazing, ridiculous concept of just these like autonomous unicycles that race each other and do insane flips and tricks, and it almost feels like a really early version of like Tony Hawk, where you're just like, okay, I'm gonna go for like a like 12 times backflip and just see if it lands and just see what happens. And so just trying crazy tricks and flips and stuff on your Uniracer and landing the trick and getting that speed boost and points. There's really not a whole lot of games that stack up to it. Obviously there's a number of games that are maybe objectively better, but Uniracers always sticks out to me as a really unique game, and there's I don't think there's anything else like it on any system, but it's a staple as far as I'm concerned for a solid Super Nintendo collection, and I wanted to make sure it was at least mentioned, which is why it's my number 10.
All right, sweet. That's on my list too, also Uniracers, because it's
Yo!
I mean, because we grew up with it, so it's our game. Tim, you're number 10.
All right, so I'm gonna say my list is probably gonna be the most predictable out of this group, because I'm more of, like I mentioned in our little chat here, I'm more of the nostalgia guy, and I didn't get to dig into the weeds into a lot of the games that came out for the Super Nintendo, because the Super Nintendo was the first system I bought with my own money, and that included the games. And also, I was the first kid in the family who, after the crash of video games, after Atari, my family, my parents, my grandparents were like, nobody's buying games for me for my birthday or Christmas, because they didn't want to pay into the industry that would just crashed. So I was very limited on the games that I owned, and any other games that I played were rented or I played later on in life in Virtual Console. With that being said, this is probably why number 10 is going to be a surprise to some people who know me, is Super Metroid. It is not higher in the list because I didn't play it until later in life, so there's no nostalgia factor for me. It's just I got to play it, and it is a masterclass in that type of game, but it doesn't beat out a lot of the other games that I experienced on my Super Nintendo. So Super Metroid is my number 10. Yeah, Super Metroid is not number 1 on my list.
Nice.
Same.
Again, probably solo on this one. Harvest Moon for the Super Nintendo.
I knew it would be on your list, so I didn't put it on mine.
I put it fairly close to the bottom because it's not my favorite Harvest Moon game, but definitely one that I put a lot more time in than I probably should have. For those not familiar with Harvest Moon, it's probably the original farming sim. So that's plain and simple.
Yeah. My next one, number 9, is Batman Returns. Also a Konami game. It's just a killer beat 'em up. I'm not super well versed in the beat 'em up realm. I did my Turtles and my Toads, but it was a bargain bin game for me. Like, that's what I was able to get for the SNES at that time. And it felt like I was playing the movie. You look back on it now and the graphics are still good, but at the time it just looked like I was playing Batman on the TV screen. It felt like photorealistic. And the combat's great, like the destructible environments and everything. And the music was killer. It was so rad. It's weird to think though, like I don't think I had seen the movie when I was playing this game, so I like didn't have any of the context. But it was still Batman beating up clowns, so I was like, this is pretty sweet. Yeah.
Okay, sweet, awesome. Adam, your number 9.
My number 9 is F-Zero. I know it's probably not a favorite for most people, but it started what for me is one of the best N64 games and best GameCube games, particularly the GameCube version. So again, it's kind of low on my list, but I remember playing it for the first time and just being baffled, like how are these graphics even possible with the Mode 7? So my number 9 is F-Zero.
Excellent. And then Solo, your number 9.
Sure, mine. Everybody probably knows I'm RPG, JRPG guy. So mine's Chrono Trigger. Picked it up. By no means did I do all the endings because I fell off way before trying to do all the endings. But I'm just not much to say other than just like, even at a young age, I was JRPGing and RPGing, and so it got my attention, and I latched onto it, and so I had to have it on my list.
Good deal. Good deal. It's nice to get the, like, it's funny, like, you think the numbered 9s and 10s are going to be like your concession picks, like you're like, I like this game, but it's not going to win anything, yet we have Super Metroid and Chrono Trigger on here already, so why no?
There's a lot of good games.
Yeah, hard to fit in.
It's such a good system.
It's a hell of a conversation.
I could do a top 50 and still feel bad about the ones I didn't pick.
For real.
Yep.
Sam, you're number 9.
My number 9 is Turtles in Time. Really wasn't on the list the first draft, but as I thought about it, it was a big favorite growing up. Because on easy mode, my brothers and I could actually play through it and get to the end and beat Super Shredder, which was always nice because a lot of these Super Nintendo games I could not roll credits on when I was young.
I feel the same way about Turtles in Time. Tim, you're number 9.
My number 9 was a couch co-op favorite to play with friends, and that was Super Smash TV. We had a lot of fun playing that game, and it felt like almost wrong to play it too. But it wasn't.
Man.
It was. We got to rent it, so it was like we got to play a lot of it, and it was a lot of fun. So it gave us a lot of Running Man feels, So,
Man, I was really fighting for you, Smash TV, on the last GOTY 30 episode. I was fighting for it because I knew you loved it, and I love it too.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our first repeat now with my number 9 pick, which is Uniracers. Woo. So right now, Uniracers is winning with 3 points, guys. So congrats, Uniracers.
Uniracers, number 1 SNES game. You heard it here first.
Let's go ahead and end the episode right here. I don't think we're
5 minutes.
Yep. Nobody's going to fight us on that. So no, let's go to number 8. So John, hit us with your number 8. This is where stuff gets spicy now.
So it was kind of hard to get number 8, but because I wanted to move this one up, but I couldn't do it. So Donkey Kong Country is at number 8 for me. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what Donkey Kong Country is, so I won't explain.
If you've heard 5 minutes of any RetroLogic episode, you know what Donkey Kong Country is.
I mean, just for the music alone, like I had to have this game in here somewhere.
Fair enough.
Awesome. Liam, go ahead.
My number 8 is NBA Jam.
Whoa!
Another game that I would steal from friends. I think we had 2 cartridges in circulation amongst 5 of us, and it was just like you went over to someone's house, you left it there, it wound up somewhere. You wound up always having a copy somewhere, whether it was the regular or the tournament edition with like the burned out logo. But it was a sports game. I played a lot of baseball games on the NES growing up. I don't know if there were basketball games on the NES. There was something something about
but they
Were
weren't
just
great.
not good ones. Yeah.
yeah, something about NBA Jam. Obviously, the over the topness of it. I didn't know about unlockable codes at the time. Like, I didn't have Nintendo Power or whatever. So, no Bill Clinton, no Beastie Boys, whatever it was. Like, I didn't have any of that stuff. But it was so tight and fun to play with friends. I didn't even know it was an arcade game. I didn't know like that you could play it on the Genesis or whatever. Just like awesome kind of throw down with friends.
Sweet. Yeah, definitely a good pick. I didn't even think about that one on my list.
It narrowly missed my list.
yeah.
So close.
Adam, you're number
almost had
8.
one.
My number 8 is also Donkey Kong Country, and
Boom.
I will just go ahead and pass the mic because I'm sure there's going to be plenty of Donkey Kong Country talk.
We have a new champion.
Coming.
Donkey Kong Country with 6
Donkey Kong
points.
Country, the original number 1 Donkey Kong Country is my number 8.
Solo something.
Mine's X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. Because I love
nice.
X-Men. Yeah, I've always on the eye out for another X-Men game, and played all the X-Men games in the arcade, and so I love having one actually on the console that I could play. And despite having all the X-Men available, including the poster child Wolverine on there that they had, I always end up playing Gambit, who's my favorite of all the X-Men.
Sweet.
Gambit's so
Gee, I wonder why.
And that's a really good game. And honestly, I feel like I hear more
You
people
can figure
talk
out why,
about.
right?
I feel like I hear more people talk about the Genesis X-Men games than Mutant Apocalypse. I actually like Mutant Apocalypse more than the Genesis X-Men games.
Sam, what's
Yeah,
your
I
number
jammed
8?
a lot on that. Yeah, I was like, I got a little bit too involved in it. I was actually like, how tall is Remy LeBeau? Am I as tall as him? Yeah, I was like, how can I get red contacts and stuff like that?
Nice. Sam, what's your number 8?
So breaking the mold slightly, ever so slightly, my number 8 is Donkey Kong Country 2. I did not, I don't know if this is going to complicate scoring, but I did not pick multiples of the same series because I thought it would be boring. Honestly, all 3 Donkey Kong Country games are great. I just didn't want them taking up 3 consecutive spots on the list because that's probably what they would do. So I picked my favorite, and that's Donkey Kong Country 2.
Okay, good deal. And Tim,
I like that explanation. It's good.
like if you
All
have
right.
to pick one,
Yeah. So my pick is it's one that is probably another surprising pick because you would think I would, if it was going to be a movie game, it would have been Star Wars since I'm a big Star Wars fan. I actually did not get to play any of the Star Wars games on this SNES.
Oh, wow.
But I did get to play Indiana Jones: The Greatest Adventures and that was to me so awesome because you were playing all 3 of the movies in the game. So that got rented lots of times.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of fun to play with friends as well, pass the controller type thing to get through certain points or whatever. So yeah.
Okay.
Indiana Jones: The Greatest Adventures,
Sweet.
number 8.
All right. And we've got mine number 8, which is Donkey Kong Country 3. All 3 of the Donkey Kong countries are on my list somewhere. And Donkey Kong Country 3, yeah, I know, right? Shocker.
I'm shocked.
Donkey Kong Country 3 is, I'm actually playing, I'm going to beat it for the first time, like now. I'm playing it on NSO, but I've played it a
This
lot.
list is rigged. I already know who the winner is. Come on.
Look, I have just as much say in this as you guys do. Okay. But it's just as, it's as quality a game as any of the other Donkey Kong countries. It just came out after the N64, so nobody cares about it.
Yeah, Donkey Kong Country 3 gets a bad rap, but I stand by that. Like, and that's part of why. Like, they would all be 3 spots in a row on my list if I put all 3 on. So, like, they're that close together for me.
It has the worst Kong of any Donkey Kong game.
And a lot of banana birds.
Yes. Yep. All right. So, John, let's hit it with your number 7.
All right, number 7 for me, Super Bomberman 2. narrowly edging out Super Bomberman 1 because they're pretty much the same game. Just 2's better.
Okay, sweet. Liam, your number
Bomberman's
7.
awesome.
My number 7 is Super Mario Kart. So I feel like this game hasn't held up super great. I do think I like playing it more than Mario 64 at this point still. Mario 64, for some reason, feels rough to me.
Fired.
I know, I'm sorry. I have a lot of fond memories with 64. Super Mario Kart, the Super Nintendo was in my bedroom, and we all were in close proximity to each other, so we could tell if my parents would hear if I'm playing video games. My dad would knock on the door as I'm supposed to be asleep, and he'd come in and be like, "Let's play Mario Kart." And he and I would sit there, and I was in 7th grade or whatever playing Mario Kart with my dad, and it's such a memory for me.
Awesome.
And it started everything. It started the most important series in Nintendo now. So
Good stuff.
got to be there.
All right, Adam, number 7.
My number 7 is Yoshi's Island, aka Super Mario World 2. I think this was kind of one of those moments in Nintendo history where they took what was probably expected of them and completely flipped it on its head and did something entirely different. I love the game. I enjoy playing it to this day. And it might be a little bit higher if it weren't for some kind of, interesting design choices. But, if we have to hash that out later, we can hash that out later. But for now, I'm going to keep it simple and short and sweet. Yoshi's Island is my number 7.
Got to touch that fuzzy.
Don't touch fuzzy. Touch fuzzy, get dizzy.
All right, Solo, number 7.
And mine has already been brought up. TMNT, Turtles in Time. Yeah, I have tried to play every Turtle game. At this time, still in school, I was actually still drawing the Turtles. And so I was naturally drawn like a moth to a flame to any Turtles game. So I was jumping on it.
Sweet.
Nice.
All right, Sam.
My number 7 has also already been mentioned, and it is Chrono Trigger. One of only 2 RPGs on my list. So it beat out all the Final Fantasy games.
All right, sweet. And then Tim, your number 7.
Mine is also Chrono Trigger because of being just fantastic story overall. It's probably one of the first RPGs that probably made me rethink that genre because the other RPGs did not. I did not get into the Final Fantasy series or anything like that. So Chrono Trigger was my RPG. And that game is the reason why I try to buy every version of Chrono Trigger I can.
Good luck.
Right?
Yeah, lots of love for Chrono Trigger. My number 7 is Turtles in Time, and a lot like was stated earlier about it. It was a beat 'em up that was beatable, right? You had 2 people, 2 controllers. You could get through it, and just multiple turtles and crazy fun, different levels, traveling through time, really good mechanics. Yeah, to this day, one of my favorite beat 'em ups of all time. Also, just love the turtles, so can't go wrong with Turtles in Time. Whew. Okay, going into number 6, John.
All right, number 6 for me is Final Fantasy 3 or 6, whichever one you want to call it. It's a really good RPG, so it had to make the list. And it's probably, I don't know, it's probably one of my favorite games of all time, but there's just so many good Super Nintendo games. That's what makes it so hard.
Yeah.
3 is where the series really took off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear that a lot. Liam, number 6.
My number 6 is Super Mario RPG, which is a game that I didn't play much. I had one friend who had it. I watched it a little bit. It seemed really whack with a stretchy dude and something else. I had no idea what was happening. It wasn't a Mario game, and so I had no interest in it whatsoever. It was the perspective of it was like skewed in a weird way. What was this? The game? I don't know. And then I found out that Paper Mario and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door were the descendant of this game. And so years ago, I picked up Mario RPG and finally played through it and see the brilliance. I don't know how anybody who played it at the time figured out some of the things in this game, because there's some jank there and some real jumps that I don't, there's some weird stuff happening. But
we got
fantastic game. Yeah, you guys, I mean, yeah, I think there's a collective, like, you asked your friend on the playground, he told you to sneak behind the wall, you know, that kind of thing.
Or you bought the Nintendo Power Guide.
Yeah, right, or you got the guides. So yeah, Super Mario RPG. I finally beat it a year or two ago, and it was glorious.
Awesome. That game's on my list too as well. So Adam, number 6.
Okay, my number 6 is Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest, which I only very recently learned is the correct name. It is not Diddy Kong's Quest. It's Diddy's Kong Quest.
Common mistake,
and I still have trouble. I'm making a point to say it correctly because I still have trouble saying it correctly, because for 30 years or so, it was Diddy Kong's Quest. But no, it is in fact Diddy's Kong Quest. And
wait, what was that again? I need to write this down.
Diddy's Kong Quest. And I believe that was done because Kong Quest is a little bit of a pun. And
it's 100% a pun.
Yeah, that seems intentional to me. It just took what Donkey Kong Country did and amplified it. I love the pirate theme, the beehive world, the carnival world, the bramble. It's so much fun. I love Donkey Kong Country. It always is going to be one of my favorites, but Donkey Kong Country 2 just took it to the next level in every single way. All the secrets, the secret world, kind of mirroring the special worlds in Super Mario World to a certain extent. And I love everything about it. It's an almost perfect game.
Awesome. All right, Solo Something, number 6.
My number 6 is another beat 'em up that was arcade, came to the console. That's Final Fight. I like all the variety of characters. Although my favorite one that kind of really connected with, just because of the hilarity of it, was Mike, and he was like this mayor that just had it and just threw down the pen and decided just to go out on the streets in his like nice dress slacks and nice dress shoes. But just tried not to get any on his nice shirt, so he took off his shirt but wore suspenders and decided to just take justice into his own hands. And I just like the whole vigilante style of that and said, I connect with this guy. I like his jam. And so, yeah.
I love that.
Amazing.
Seriously, probably one of the best characters ever written in a video game. So good. Like you already know his backstory. Yeah, so good.
I like the video game version of Falling Down.
Yeah, exactly. I want to know this dude. I want to go have a meal with him.
Mm-hmm. All right, Sam, number 6.
My number 6 is one that I immediately knew would be on this list, but I had a hard time placing. It was initially quite a bit higher, and that is Super Castlevania 4. This is a game I did not have growing up, did not have for a long time, but it has become a almost annual replay. Partly because it's, the kind of game you can replay in an evening, and it's also the kind that is seasonally appropriate. I will usually play it every October as Halloween gets close. And it's just a great time. One of my favorite Castlevania games. I do kind of prefer the Metroid style Castlevania games that came after, but this along with Rondo of Blood are like the pinnacle of pre-Metroidvania Castlevania.
Yep.
Okay, sweet.
Nice choice.
And then Tim, your number 6.
So my number 6 is kind of like what Liam had brought up in regards to playing his game with his dad, Mario Kart. Mine was Street Fighter 2 with my dad. Which is quite interesting because I would never have expected my dad wanting to play Street Fighter 2. He was not the type of guy I would have figured to, play a fighter game with me, but for whatever reason, it just clicked with him, and he was like, "Let me try that out." So we'd stay up, late or whatever, and play on the Super Nintendo. It was the first one, I believe, too. I don't think it was the Turbo version, so it was the very first Street Fighter 2 version that came out.
Nice.
So that's my number 6.
Okay, good deal. One that we might see more of later, depending on. Not really sure about this crew. I don't know. You guys have some weird lists. Mine's totally normal though. My list. So my number 6 is Gradius 3. Gradius 3 was, I think, the first game I ever played on a Super Nintendo at my friend. What was his name? I don't remember his name, but he lived down my street and he had a Super Nintendo, and Gradius 3 and Mario World. And for some reason, we didn't play Mario World. We played Gradius 3. That was my introduction to the Gradius series, which, is still my favorite shmup series of all time. So I had to throw it on there high on the list. As a launch title that just, blew me away. So that's it. Let's go. We're on number 5 now. So this is halfway through our list. So far, it looks like Chrono Trigger has the most points because it was on here 3 times and nothing else has been on here.
Turtles looks up.
Oh, Turtles looks
pretty high
too. Yeah, Turtles has 1
repeats that'll be number 1 repeats. Those will be the ones that will really take it.
For sure. So those 2 are up high, and then all the Donkey Kong countries keep getting mentioned, which warms my heart. So let's do our number 5 pick. So John, go ahead and do your number 5.
All right. This is also a repeat. It's already been mentioned. Super Metroid, number 5.
Okay, good deal. And Liam, go for it.
I actually also have Super Metroid at number 5.
Probably new number 1 now.
Yeah, it's getting there. Metroid for the NES was really big with my dad and I as well. Like we would try to pick that game apart, and we did beat the NES version.
Whoa.
And then when we found out there was a Super Metroid, we were like, oh, we're doing this all over again. We tapped out at the glass tunnel for like a long while. I didn't have guides, didn't know
Understandable. Understandable.
When I realized or was told by a friend what you're supposed to do in that glass tunnel, I remember being so pissed. I was like, why would I ever think to do that? So messed up. But ultimately then a great game. Didn't beat it with my dad. It was years later because of that tunnel. But I don't think he's ever gone back. Maybe I should.
Awesome. Yeah, lots of love for Super Metroid. Adam, your number 5.
My number 5 is Super Mario RPG. Sounds like it's already been mentioned, and I don't have much else to say about it. It's big. It's a big game for me. So that's my number 5.
Sweet. And then Solo something.
Yeah, making my way through my fighting games. Mine's Super Street Fighter 2. That was our junk food game. Me and my friends that I was hanging with at the time, Friday and Saturday nights, we get the Super Nintendo. We'd take it over to each other's houses, and that's what we'd all get around on the couch and we'd play. We just, and I can't tell you how many hours I've spent playing that game just ad nauseum. That was just our jam, our junk food game. And so that was our couch co-op game. So I have a lot of memories attached to that game.
All right, sweet. Yeah, second mention of Street Fighter 2, so that's good. We got Sam up next with his number 5.
My number 5, in fine fashion, we are thinking collectively here, is also Super Metroid.
Boom.
Let's go.
Felt right to put it next to Castlevania on my list.
All right, Tim. It can't be Super Metroid, so what is it?
Yeah. So mine is NHL 94.
Hey,
wow,
Chris Pratt.
Come on, Chris.
So yes, it was on there. No, he did not, because this is what we share. We both love NHL 94. I don't think his was for the Nintendo though. Mine is for the Super Nintendo. It was an awesome game to play with friends, and just like now, I don't do very well against people. So, but even back then, I had a hard time beating friends. But it was still a blast to play up and down that ice, and just the way that game was built to come from, like you guys said, NES. Coming from NES hockey games to this was just blew my mind. So it's one of my favorite sports games. Not the favorite sports game for this system. Hint, hint. But yes, NHL 94 is number 5 on my list.
All right, sweet. Okay, so my number 5 is also Super Metroid. So
almost the sweep.
One of the few games on my list that wasn't a childhood game of mine. It was a game I played very recently, like 2 years ago. Beat it with a paper guide on stream, and was so just blown away by it that it single-handedly made Metroid one of my favorite game series of all time. Like,
I remember that.
And
that was cool to watch it.
Yeah, and some of you remember watching that and just watching me gush over it afterwards. Just like, it's so rare to play a game from a retro console you've never played before and just be in awe of it the whole time. So
it stands up. It truly stands up.
It does. It feels like I'm playing a modern indie game. Like, it feels like something designed for 2023 and not 1996 or 5 or whatever. So just in awe of that game. Wish I could put it higher, but there's still more Donkey Kong games to go. So what are you gonna do? Okay. It looks like Super Metroid's on top right now for sure. That was a lot of points.
Yeah.
I don't know if did I mention how the point system is going down on this yet? Maybe we'll take a second. I'll just explain. So essentially we're doing a top 10, but every time, everybody's number 10's got 1 point, everybody's number 9's got 2 points, and so on, so on. Yeah. And so number 1 will get 9 points, I think, if I'm doing my math in my head right.
No, I think it's the inverse.
It should be 10.
Yeah, so it should be 10. It should be the exact opposite. Like, everything that just was number 5 got 6 points.
1, 4. Okay, whatever. Yeah, you're right. So, but that way, like, everybody's list carries weight to it, and that way that kind of like makes it even. And then there's going to be a bunch of ties. There always is, and that's where kind of the discussion is going to come in later. So, everybody's Super Metroid's just got 6 points, which gives it like 20 points. And the next closest one is either Chrono Trigger or Turtles in Time, which has like under 10 still. So, but it's still anybody's game because the points just keep getting higher and higher. So, John, go ahead and hit your number 4. We're almost at the top 3 already, which is crazy.
Almost. So my number 4 has already been mentioned as well, and it is Chrono Trigger, which, even though Final Fantasy 6 is probably one of my favorite RPGs, this one's even just a notch above it.
Favoriter.
So had to put it in there.
There's no question to me. Chrono Trigger is better than Final Fantasy.
It is. I mean, I have a
They're both
different
good.
appreciation for both of them. But Chrono Trigger, just having the replayability, just kind of pushes it up there. Like, once you play Final Fantasy 6, you know everything that's going on there.
Okay, sweet. Liam, number 4.
My number 4 is one that hasn't been mentioned yet, which when we get into this lofty area, I think there's a couple that nobody has said yet that no one's surprised about. But mine is Mega Man X. I adored this game. This is like one of my favorite platformers. I mean, obviously SNES is, for me at least, is the era of defining my fandom of platformers in general. Just some of the greatest of all time came from this era. I loved the early Mega Man games on the NES, were some of my favorites, and then the way that they like refreshed the sort of design on this. Didn't change a ton of stuff. That wall kick move was huge, and I loved the robot masters. Like the all animal based robot masters were killer. So Mega Man X
on Sam's list.
Dope. So
You know it's going to be on my list. The question is where.
Yeah.
right.
All right, Adam, number 4.
My number 4 is also Chrono Trigger. Knowing myself and what I like about games, and what I don't like about games. I'm assuming if I had more time with the game, it would probably be higher. I just personally haven't had a lot of time with the game. I played like the first few hours, something like 25 years ago. I tried again maybe about 15 years ago. I played through the first few hours, and not because I didn't like it or wasn't, enthralled with it, but just other things came up. So far, I love the relatively small amount of it that I've played, and it's probably going to end up higher on my list at some point once I can sit down and get through more of it. But I love everything about it that I've played so far. But that's my number 4.
You have the DS game, right? I think I sold you mine.
Yes, I have a DS version now. So that'll probably be, I'll be playing that on my 3DS, and that'll be the way that I play through it, because
glad that's
I'm
at
not
a
going to
happy
pay
home.
the asking price for the actual, SNES cartridge. So I'll be playing it on the 3DS.
Sweet.
Still.
I hear that's a really good way to play it.
That's what I've heard too. So thank you for selling it to me for well below what it's probably actually worth.
I'm glad it's at a happy home. I didn't love it the little I played of it. That's all I'll say about it. Solo something quickly. Get me out of this.
Mine's probably not on anybody's list, I guess, at this point, because we're so high on the list. But I literally have a poster of the Death Star behind me. So mine is all the trifecta of the Super Nintendo games of the Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, and The Empire Strikes Back. So I loved all of those. I was still a fanboy of the movies, obviously. And so being able to play through the storylines on the Super Nintendo, I just ate that up like a kid in a candy store. And to this day, if I actually, had those games, I would probably just sit down and just binge play them.
Nice.
If you had to pick one,
somebody
though,
got it on there.
You're going to have to pick
if you had
one.
to pick
for
one,
the
though,
purposes
which
of
one
the
would it
list.
be?
Empire. Empire.
I like Jedi.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got on the list.
I got my biggest favorite kid.
I'm glad somebody mentioned it. Yeah, like those games weren't that bad. All right, Sam, number 4.
My number 4, I guess I'm only a little surprised to be the first person to mention this game, because it's probably in a lot of people's top 3, and that is my favorite Zelda game, A Link to the Past.
Pretty solid.
Okay.
Mine's coming, baby.
I anticipate hearing more of that later. All right, Tim, go for it.
All right. So I hinted at a sports game in my list. It's number 4 is Madden 94. So, because 94 sports games for me that year were just awesome. And I played a lot of NHL 94, but Madden 94 topped that even more, because I played that the most on my own and then more with friends. So it was just the style of play, and just enough said. Madden 94.
I did not think we'd see a Madden game on this list, but it is Tim, so what are you going to do?
Found its way.
It found its, it has a home. It's going to have a number. It might not be in the top 10, but it'll get there. Okay, so
Closer to 94.
my number 4 is Donkey Kong Country 2. I didn't play Donkey Kong Country 2 until much later. I only had the first game as a child. And as much as I love what I played, I don't think that it necessarily, I think that there's a lot of improvements. But I think, to kind of go against what Adam is saying, I think what it is that it's kind of it's the darker version of Donkey Kong Country. Which I certainly appreciate, and I absolutely love the game, so definitely no shade on it at all. But it's praised for one of the best platformers on the system for a good reason, and it fixes a lot of the problems that the original Donkey Kong Country has. But I just have such a soft spot for that first one that it can't be higher than the first one. So Donkey Kong Country 2 is now number 4. And we're going to round up to our number 3, our top 3. We're already here. We're rounding out about an hour of a show. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through number 3 and number 2, take a break before number 1, because I'm going to do some math. And then when we come back with our number 1s after the break, we'll go through the number ones, and that'll kind of give us like some tension there, so we can see how the numbers evolve things as we go. But before we get there, we got to go through 3 and 2. So, John, hit your number 3.
So number 3, probably not a surprise that this game is on my list somewhere. It landed at number 3 because the other 2 games are just too hard to beat. But my number 3 is Ogre Battle, the March of the Black Queen, which is a solid tactics RPG that kind of set the pace for later Ogre Battle games and is very replayable. So
that's an expensive
people go out and play
cartridge.
it.
That's a crazy cartridge.
Yeah. I would say you could get it other places too, but even on PlayStation now, it's pretty high dollar.
Is that Square now, or is that Atlas, or who has the rights to that?
So that was Atlas at the time.
Okay, maybe there's hope.
I think it was
for
on it was
NSO.
on a virtual console at one point. I think I
was.
bought it on a virtual console.
It was on the Wii U.
I think it was you could get it on the Wii also. I think
Not anymore.
One of those, yeah.
but yeah.
No.
could.
Yeah.
So maybe there's hope for it on NSO if it's
Can't get it on the
Atlas.
Wii U either.
Yeah. If it's Square, if it's Square, then no way. But if it's Atlas still publishing those games, then maybe.
I mean, we just got the
Tactics.
remaster of Tactics Ogres.
Atlas is part of Sega these days, so I mean,
Yeah.
they're usually willing to play ball, and they want to put their stuff out as many ways as they can.
For sure.
It's like,
Okay, Liam, number 3.
I think I'm going to break the ice here with Super Mario World.
Let's go.
I don't think anyone's
It is.
said
Yeah.
Super Mario World yet. And I'll qualify that by I did not get my Super Nintendo until '94, and my pack-in was not Super Mario World. It was Link to the Past. So I had a friend who had Super Mario World, and it looked cool, but I didn't play this on my own cart until years later. I did play the GBA version. I sat in the back of a college class playing that. I don't know what college class it was, so I wasn't paying attention, obviously.
It's been pretty good.
The GBA version was really great and made me go pick up the SNES version. And it's a fantastic, it's probably my favorite Mario 2D platformer. 3 is tough to beat, but World kind of ekes it out.
All right, sweet. Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of surprised it's the first time we've seen Mario World, unless everybody has it in their top 2, or I don't know. I don't know what to think, because it's not on my list at all, so whatever. Adam, go ahead.
Wow.
Wow.
Just dropping bombs left and right here, guys. Please,
Yeah, Donkey
please
Kong
save me.
Country's there, but no Super Mario World.
3 times.
All 3 Donkey Kong, but not
wow.
Mario
It
World.
would beat Super Mario World.
No, F Mario. Let's go, Adam.
Wow. I'm kind of speechless. Okay, well, we'll deal with that later. But my number 3 is also Super Mario World. I'm not going to get into the endless debate between Super Mario World versus Super Mario Brothers 3. I love both of them. They were both very and are very important to me for, slightly different reasons. But Super Mario World just kind of takes, everything that Mario platformers did on the NES and once again, just kind of took it to the next level. We get the introduction of Yoshi. We have, the Star Road and all of the, various secrets, the world map that is all kind of interconnected, rather than in Super Mario Brothers 3, you've got, the different worlds that are very, very cool, but are not really connected in any way. So number 3 is Super Mario World. And if it wasn't for 2 other basically perfect games, it would probably be my number 1. But yeah, Super Mario World is a near perfect game, and endlessly replayable in my opinion, and never gets old for me. I probably replay it, once a year, and I've never gone through and quote unquote 100%. I know it's not 100%. It's a weird number that it adds up to.
There's 96.
It's 96. So you can never actually 100% it, I guess. But I've never gone through and 96%ed it. But it's just a wonderful game. I love watching my kids play it and discover new things and figure out these wild 2D platforming basics and the massive sprites that the Super Nintendo introduced. It's just endless fun. I love it with all my heart. Super Mario World, my number 3.
Sweet. All right, Solo Something, your number 3.
Super Metroid. Yep. And as been mentioned a lot, so the only footnote I'll make into it was that I grew up on the NES playing Metroid a lot and with friends as we try to figure out all the little riddles, the little like maps and stuff. And so I felt like it was a life and a day for a drought for a Metroid game. So when Super Metroid finally came out, I was like in loving it and I was just eating it up. And so I felt like it was way high time for a Metroid game to come. So I was glad to see the Super Metroid come.
Awesome. Glad to see it so high on somebody's list. That's great. Yeah. All right, Sam, number 3.
Well, I just want to thank Dan for taking the fall for excluding Super Mario World because it's not on my list either. But now that he's absorbed all of the negative blowback from that,
I drink hater tears.
I feel good about booting it to make room for Plock at number 10. So
wow.
Yeah. Anyway, my number 3 is Kirby Superstar.
Yes.
Kirby makes an appearance.
Which really rose up the ranks as I thought about this. I started to put higher value on multiplayer and co-op games as I thought about it a little bit more. And Kirby Superstar, I think, is the best co-op experience on the Super Nintendo. Just the getting like it's a game where I always wanted to be player 2 because then you got to be the enemies. But then you were like, you were always, cheering on player 1, like, oh, go get that guy. I want to turn into him. And sharing the health upgrades and everything. It was amazing. And in particular, I still have memories too. We used to rent it a lot, and we liked it so much that my parents bought a used copy, but then it turned out to be defective, so we returned it, and we did not have Kirby Superstar for a good long time. And I actually didn't really get a chance to play the game again until Kirby Superstar Ultra on the DS. So that was like a magical moment of like reliving it at that time, and then getting to play it the other ways too.
How different is the DS version? I've never played the Super Nintendo version. I've only played the DS version.
It basically adds content.
Okay,
is the main thing. Yeah.
Cool. Who thought
I
that
love
was
the
possible?
DS version. Yeah.
We're all very glad that Kirby made an appearance on these lists. It's like
So is
nobody
Yeah.
wanted to do it, but we were all hoping somebody would. And thank you, Sam, and for
needed
putting
a
it so
hero.
high. Like honestly, it deserves it. It's a great game.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, number 3.
My number 3, for a lot of the same reasons that was already mentioned, is Super Mario World. So it is the second game I beat on my Super Nintendo.
Woo!
So it's number 3 on my list.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right, my number 2. Listen.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
No, number 3. Number 3.
You gotta do your number 3.
Oh, good. Okay, thank God. No, this is so funny. How like I don't mean F Mario. I love Mario. It's just that
But
he gets
Sonic?
he just gets all the attention, Anyway, that being said,
You would put Sonic on here before
That-
Mario World.
Sonic the Hedgehog for Super Nintendo, the ROM hack. Okay, my number 3 is Yoshi's Island. And I love Yoshi's Island. I love Yoshi's Island better than Donkey Kong Country 2. That's why it's higher on my list. I think that game is 100% fun all the way through. I can't think of a part of that game that I don't like. The transformations are amazing. It has, and like everybody gets annoyed with the whole baby crying thing, but like honestly, it's a very forgiving and kind of fun. It's not punishing you for getting hit by being like, oh, you lost a life. It's like, no, you get to hear this annoying sound now. So you're almost like more inclined to avoid obstacles because you're going to hear the annoying sound of the baby. It's just so unique, and things that are wholly unique to me get a lot more points than things that are sort of just rehashes. They're good, but they're just rehashes, right? So in my mind, that's why it's higher than Donkey Kong Country 2, which ran because Donkey Kong Country walked, or whatever that saying goes. Anyway, Yoshi's Island. I'm getting ahead of myself and behind myself at the same time. Number 2, John.
All right, number 2. The game that Dan doesn't like, Super Mario World.
It's fine. God.
No, Super Mario World is pretty special to me. It was my brother bought a launch Super Nintendo, so we had Super Mario World was pretty much the only game we had for a while. Excuse me. And then pretty much like a year after he bought it, he moved out because he was 10 years older than I am. So I didn't have a Super Nintendo for a while after that. So, I mean, Super Mario World was basically one of my few Super Nintendo games that I played for quite a while until I would get my own.
Nice.
Other than at friends' houses, but.
Sweet. Good deal. All right, Liam, number 2.
Just anyone listening right now should probably just Google Squitter the Spider real quick. Like, you kind of remember what he looks like, but I mean, he had like sneakers on a tarantula with a goofy 90s smile, man. There's nothing more 90s than Squitter the Spider. My number 2 is Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest.
Kong Quest. Yes,
thank
sir.
you, Adam. Appreciate it. For everything that everyone said, except that you also got to play as the animals in certain parts. Like you didn't have to ride them. You got to actually be the animals, which was great. You could play them. It wasn't just in bonus rounds. It was in some of the stages and stuff.
I just want to point out that Diddy Kong is already an animal.
Yes.
That's a great point. I'm sorry to all the apes. But yeah, no, those bonus to take the bonus animals and boost them to where they did in that game was everything. Yeah.
Trixie, also an animal.
That's true. No, they're all the Kongs are animals.
I can't think of a single non-animal in.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, until you get to Tiki's, maybe in the
there you
newer
go.
ones. Yeah.
There you go.
It's like a Goofy and Pluto situation where they're both dogs, but one of them is like anthropomorphized and the other one isn't. It's
Rambi can't talk.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah,
Rambi chooses to be ridden. He's sentient.
yeah.
Kind of an odd choice that Squawks can't talk either.
It is weird. Yeah, Squawk will be the only one.
Yeah.
Monkeys are the higher beings. I guess crocodiles too. I don't know. Jeez, go read the lore.
Crocodiles talk.
Adam, number 2.
My number 2 is Super Metroid.
Yes.
It's Metroid is just in my, it sounds silly, but in my top 3 favorite Nintendo franchises. I love every Metroid game I've ever played. It's underrated despite the love that it does get, in my opinion. And Super Metroid is the perfect 2D Metroid. I love Metroid Dread, but even so, if I had to choose one or the other to be the 2D Metroid that I play for the rest of my life, I would have to pick Super Metroid over it, despite the almost, flawless execution of 2D Metroid on the Nintendo Switch with Metroid Dread. But I think Super Metroid takes the cake. Dan, what you said about it feeling like a modern indie game with just the amount of
it's still innovative.
We're kind of right. We're kind of spoiled with some of the creature comforts that we get with like maps and hints and things like that. And I feel like, diagonal shooting and things like that. Super Metroid broke a lot of barriers in terms of things that you could do with a 2D game.
For sure.
The massive boss fights, the exploration, the map and everything. Just a perfect game. And I love everything about it. It's amazing. So Super Metroid's my number 2.
Let's go. Love it. Solo Something, you're number 2.
And my number 2 is Super Mario World. We've played that a lot with my friends and I. That we had, the same gaming group with the Street Fighter game, and we all fell in love with like Yoshi, and so much so that we just. When we would drive around my friend's Chevrolet Capri to go to the pool halls, go bridge jumping and stuff like that, we would always like say like Yoshi. We named this car the Yoshi, and that's how much we fell in love with that game. And so, and the Yoshi himself, and so we got fluky off that game. And so yeah, we played hours and hours of it. And so yeah, it's a lot of memories attached to that game. And I stand by that Mario game. It holds up to this time. So if anyone says F Mario, I say put the asterisk by that, except Super Mario World.
I regret saying that. I take it back.
So my number 2 might be a surprise that it's not number 1. It's Earthbound.
Mm-hmm.
Probably expecting that on my list. Definitely a game I grew up with, game that kind of grew up with me, it feels like at times. Very kind of shaped my sense of humor as I think about it in a lot of ways. There aren't a lot of RPGs that I replay. There aren't a lot of RPGs that I will talk to every NPC every time I replay. Earthbound is that RPG.
I thought it was going to be number 1, honestly.
Yes.
Now I don't know what number 1's going to be for you, Sam. Let's see. Tim, you're number 2.
All right. So, jokingly, when we were, told to do this, I said, Dan, F you for making us do this list. So
You did say that.
Jokingly, of course. So, because I had to look at everything again, really study when we say, like, oh yeah, that's in my top 10. And you start looking at all the times you said this game's in your top 10, you find out you got 50 games in your top 10. you gotta start dwindling things down. Right. So what I used to think was my number 2 became number 3, which was Super Mario World. But my number 2, which used to be number 1, is now Link to the Past. Link to the Past is my number 2. And when we get to number 1, I'll explain why these move down. But Link to the Past was the first game I ever beat and the first Zelda game I ever beat. Because that was the game that I got with my Super Nintendo as well when I bought it. But absolutely loved that game. I ate it up whenever chance I could play that game. I played it. And just at that age back then when it was out, it blew my mind. Just the puzzles, how smart they were, how smart it made me feel when I was able to solve them, or to beat the bosses that were in some of the areas, and then just get a story out of it. What I felt was a good story at the time, in that game. So just everything just carried on and just was like reading a book almost, where you just couldn't put it down. So Link to the Past is my number 2.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, I'm surprised to not see very much Link to the Past. Maybe everybody has a number 1. What do I know? So the reason why I had to redact my F Mario earlier is because I realized my number 3 and my number 2 are both Mario games. So my number 2 is Super Mario RPG. Super Mario RPG, along with Pokemon, were the games that made me care about RPGs. That got me into the genre. That made me realize that I could enjoy an RPG. And it was the game that I would sit there and bang my head against a wall with when I was sick on the couch, staying home from school. I'd put the TV like on the couch with me. We had this little like 13-inch TV. Adam remembers like the wood grain, little tiny TV, like fake wood grain.
Wow.
And I would sit it on the couch with me, and I would play.
Too.
Yeah, I'd play Super Mario RPG all day because in that game, there's some pixel hunting you have to do. Like sometimes you just don't know what the heck to do. You just have to run around. And I beat that game because I would sit there for 8 hours and bang my head against the wall. And you'd think it would make me hate the game, but no, the game it's just charming all the way through. Every world is just some new race or some new thing you're learning. You know, there's Yoshi with sunglasses on. There's a frog that looks like a cloud. There's a god who turns into a toy. There's just all kinds of weird stuff going on. And I love it. Every second of it. Smithy's a great boss. I love that you join up with Bowser. It is, to me, it's such an important game. So, it's my number 2.
Can I just punch in real quick and just say that I've kind of been keeping a tally of everything right now, and as we head into our final round, Super Metroid and Super Mario World are both tied for number 1.
Yo!
Just about to get interesting here, guys. So buckle up.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to do some math to have all the answers that we need. And then when we come back, we're going to do roundtable our number 1 pick, which I think is going to drastically change things. But we're just going to have to see.
have a space for honorable mentions?
Yeah, we could do honorable mentions. Let's go to break first, because it's been about an hour. And we'll do honorable mentions at the end, if everybody's okay with that. Because save the best for last. Why not? So, take a break, and we'll see you guys in just a second. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. Okay, so I have tallied all the points so far, and we're going to go through the current top 10. This is without anybody's number 1 points counted for, because we don't know what our number 1s are yet. We haven't revealed them. Tied for number 1 is Super Mario World and Super Metroid, as Liam stated. And then with half of that many points, tied for number 2 is Chrono Trigger and Donkey Kong Country 2. Next is Super Mario RPG, Yoshi's Island, Street Fighter 2, Turtles in Time, Earthbound, Link to the Past, Kirby Superstar, Ogre Battle. You know what? I missed something here. Link to the Past should be higher. I don't make mistakes. Yeah. I make happy accidents on purpose.
Yeah, I have it at 16 right now.
Yeah, I spelt it wrong, so it didn't get in the right place. Ooh. But I fixed it just now. So now Link to the Past is at number 7 instead of number 0 or whatever.
And I'm sure it'll stay there.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to live update this as we do our number 1s and see how the numbers shift. Okay.
You should share your screen.
What?
Share your screen.
Share my... No. I don't I don't screw something up. It's a delicate balance I have going on right now. I don't want to mess it up. John, quick, you're number 1.
All right, update Link to the Past because it's going up. Because that's my number 1. It had to be there, right?
All right, 10 points for Link to the Past. Okay.
Feels like Zelda games always clean up at this sort of thing.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. You can toss another 10 on there. That was my pack in. It's the first game I remember going to the playground and consistently like talking through with my friends to figure out how to do stuff in. Like I thought I broke that game when I turned into a bunny, and I was like, when Smitty figured out how to get through that part, like all of us freaked out. So. Link to the Past.
All right, well, Link to the Past jumps to number 2. Super Metroid, Super Mario World, still tied for number 1. Adam, number 1.
I'm going to give you a single guess what you think my number 1 is.
Is it Link to the Past?
Yes, it is.
All right, fine.
Mario Paint.
Yes.
You know what? Mario Paint would be my number 11. Not even going to lie.
I thought for the music alone.
For the music alone.
The compositions and fly swatting.
It's so good. Anyway. It's not, though. All right, Solo, you're number 1.
All right, I'll give you visual representation.
There it is. He's got the Master Sword.
Sword.
I think I need to get some new hosts on this show. There's too many Zelda fans out here. Just come on.
Well, you know what?
Mix it up.
It was my number 4. So you know it's not my number 1.
All right, Sam.
If you were paying attention, you should know what my number.
I already
1
know
is.
what. Yeah, I already know what your number 1 is.
It's Mega Man X.
Yeah.
There we go.
And it edges out Earthbound primarily because I think Mega Man X is a game that I think everybody should play. It is a game I would recommend to everyone.
Yes.
Earthbound is an acquired taste. I totally get people not liking Earthbound. If you don't like Mega Man X, then
There's something wrong with you.
I don't think. Yeah, there's something wrong with you. Like it's a nearly perfect game.
Is Mega Man X the best Mega Man game?
Yes.
I agree.
Sam, that one jump single-handedly put Mega Man X from number like 20 to number 8.
Yeah.
So
keeps it on the
go.
board. Thank you, Sam.
Put it on the board.
good call. And all right, Tim, you're number 1.
All right. So what pushed down my list? What pushed down my list is because this game, after looking at the list, re-looking at the list, looking at everything I talked about in the past, and replaying it at Extra Life last year, I realized that SimCity is my number 1 SNES game of all time.
For that.
Yo.
Yeah, I was wondering where that was going to be at.
SimCity is my number 1 because I spent the most time on that game, and it's the game, and I rarely go back to games. I'm not like you guys. I don't always go back to games. And SimCity is one I always go back to whenever I can. And it's like, I wish I could play that portably. I wish that was something that they could bring to NSO. I doubt if it'll ever be there, but I would play that for hours if it did. That I wouldn't probably be able to play anything new because of that game. Because just when I was a kid, that was the one I spent most time on after I beat, Link to the Past, Super Mario World, or whatever. It was SimCity. Always spending all the time I could there. And then when I found out about the money code, oh man, that was over. I had all kinds of money to spend then. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that would be a EA property now, so probably not.
Right,
not
exactly. Don't get me started on EA. I know it's not going to make the final list because I'm the only one who said it, but I got to throw it in
It's
there.
pretty. I mean,
close.
10 points is a lot on this list. Right now, it's sitting at it's tied for number 11 with Turtles in Time.
You're making me wish I would have picked SimCity somewhere down the line now, because I put too much time in that game too.
If only, if it had mouse compatibility, I'd own it and be playing it. Because I love the mouse compatibility on that game. I have the Lemmings with mouse compatibility. So everybody knows what my number 1 is. It's no big secret that Donkey Kong Country is my number 1. And I almost want to be like, you know what? Let's swap Donkey Kong Country 2 and Donkey Kong Country on my list so that 2 gets more points and we get some more representation on there. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to play by the rules. Donkey Kong Country is going to get 10 points here, which puts it... Where is it? There it is. Hang on. Okay. So just as points stand now, because there's some ties that we have to work out, Link to the Past is at number 1. Congratulations, everybody. Super Mario World and Super Metroid still tied for number 2, so that has to be worked out. Chrono Trigger and Donkey Kong Country 2 are tied for number 3, so that has to be worked out. Mario RPG 4, Mega Man X is 5, Donkey Kong Country is 6, Yoshi's Island is 7, Street Fighter 2 is 8, Turtles in Time and SimCity are tied for number 9, and Earthbound is number 10. So let me just put a break there in my thing. Insert row below. Nope, wrong place. Anyway, whatever. So that's kind of where the stings are right now. So the next thing we have to do is we'll go from the bottom up and deal with the ties. The first tie we have is Turtles in Time versus SimCity. Which one of those?
I'm gonna suggest Turtles in Time gets the nod because more people voted for it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Fair call.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna keep that. We're gonna give Turtles in Time a half point to put it in the correct order. Good, moving up the ranks. Our next tie is between Chrono Trigger. Now, so that's gonna knock some stuff off. And by the way things look, those games aren't even going to be on the list once we finish it. But it's just good to know. You know, we have like a top 15. Great. Who cares? Okay. So
Top 25.
yeah, I mean, I could give you a top 40 as it is right now. Donkey Kong Country 2 versus Chrono Trigger.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
I feel
you know where my vote sways.
I need to hear. Maybe we just take a vote and see where we stand at this point, because
Well, how many votes? Do the same thing you did the last one. How many votes? How many people voted for each?
I can't look at that anymore.
All right, you could just do a quick survey out of each of us. Which one do we prefer? It's an odd
There's
number.
7 of us. We can't tie.
Yeah, there's an odd number.
Okay.
We can break a tie. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go Donkey Kong Country. John,
Chrono Trigger for me.
okay. Liam,
Donkey Kong Country for
let's
Liam.
go. Adam,
I'm sorry, is this Donkey Kong Country 2? Or...
2,
Yeah.
Okay.
Versus Chrono.
Yeah, I have to go Chrono Trigger.
all right.
Boom. It's
Solo.
tied up.
Chrono Trigger.
All right.
To be consistent with my list, Chrono Trigger. It's right above it on mine.
it.
It takes
Chrono
it.
Trigger wins.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Tim,
well, hold on.
what would you have voted?
Chrono Trigger.
Okay. So, real nail in the coffin there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
We can't even sway one vote. We have to sway 2 votes.
Next time we do this, I'm just gonna swap Donkey Kong Country 2 for my number 1. That's what I'm just gonna do that from now on. Just 'cause
It might make the
For the next 100th
for the
episode.
next time we do this. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Stack the deck.
Because I just I
He's
don't
just
know.
gonna
I
put
don't
it on
even
his
have
list
see,
5 times.
I don't even have an argument because I'm just like, I don't even like Chrono Trigger to me is so foreign. I'm just like, I don't know. I would rather play whatever. Okay. I'm going to shut up now. So Chrono Trigger gets the half point. Boom, chakalaka. Right above that, we have Super Metroid versus Super Mario World.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everybody here had Super. Did anybody not have Super Metroid on their list? So I don't know, guys.
To me, that's-
I mean,
I had Super Mario World higher than Super Metroid though.
yeah, same. Yeah,
I think Dan and I are the only ones who had Super Metroid higher than Super Mario World.
Yeah.
That's because you guys didn't have it on your list at all.
right.
Exactly. Right. So
it's
Exactly. Zero.
consistently lower.
Goose egg.
But yeah,
Well,
if all you guys voted consistently with your lists, then it would be 5-2 in favor of Super Mario World.
But that's not
Well, no,
what I'm
but-
talking
right.
about right now. I'm not.
oh, you're talking about like who picked it higher and then give it to that. Yeah,
Well, that's what I say.
I guess
Why don't
that's
we
fair.
we could just do the vote again?
No.
Yeah, let's do
What
the
I
vote.
want to hear is from each individual why you're picking what you're picking. If you had to sit down right now and play a Super Nintendo game, And you
And
got
10 words are left.
Super Mario World or Super Metroid right in front of you, and pick one. And why? That's what I want to know. Because every time we do a top 10, I don't want to lose my mind every single time we do this, but damn it, it's always Mario and damn it Zelda every single time.
You can't deny the blonde locks.
Yeah, they're just good games.
I just
We're
want
losing
I
Dan.
just want some variety in my life. That's all I want. This is what I'm just okay.
Well,
Have a
this
beer.
top 10 doesn't dictate what you play. I mean, you play what you want, but
The Dan cave is collapsing, guys.
yeah, it's crumbling down.
I'm
He's begun throwing things.
This is not the tradition I want for top 10s. It's not the persona that I want to live with.
All right,
I just
so
want
we
to
go
hear
around. We go
because
around.
let's make
go
it
around.
fun. Let's go around. Say your piece.
go around.
I just want to hear what you have to say. John, go ahead.
All right, you.
I have to do Super Mario World. Like, there's nothing more enjoyable than like dunking a Yoshi into a hole to get you across like a gap that you couldn't normally get across.
Such a weird example. Like, there's so many other things you could say about Super Mario.
I'm just saying, like, I guess creatively, you could do more things in Super Mario World. I'll just put it that way. Like
The Koopalings, Like
there's just so much more. Like, and I love Super Metroid. Like, I could play it every time. But if I have to think about it, like, there's more content in Super Mario World. There's, if you do the Star Road, there's some more difficulty there. I think. Like, I don't know. There's just more to it, and I put more time into it, obviously. So that's just kind of where my vote has to go. But no, that was a lot of fun, like using Yoshi as a tool to get places where you needed to go.
Sacrifice.
Yes.
So brutal.
stuff.
Save the dinosaurs, right?
All right, Liam, go for it. What's your pick?
I'm gonna go Super Metroid. So, Super Metroid for me, I think is. I think it holds up better. I think if this was a GBA conversation, I think Super Mario World and the GBA is a massive improvement on the SNES version. Super Metroid is one of the few games from this era that I don't need remade, that I'm not looking at it and I'm like, you could tweak this. Like, just leave it alone. Just give me Super Metroid. It's great. I'll play it. It's definitely my pick.
Good deal. Adam?
Okay.
This is heavy, guys. I feel the weight.
Yes.
Why does it always have to be like this?
So, like, up until maybe 30 seconds ago, I was like, okay, if we're just going by what I would rather play, I probably would have gone Super Mario World. My Super Metroid was my number 2. Mario World was my number 3. And I think that was because I think, for me, objectively, Super Metroid is the better game. I think it is. I think it does more to advance, for lack of a better term, it advanced gaming forward. It introduced a number of new things and pushed the boundaries of the hardware a lot more. So, this is really hard.
Oh man, caught in suspension.
I'm going with Super Metroid.
Boom.
Because I do think it is a much larger leap. Like, if you look at the jump between NES Metroid and Super Metroid, it's a huge gap that's bridged. Rather
That's because they didn't ever iterate. If you would say Super Mario 1 and then jump straight to Super Mario World, you'd be like, what the heck?
Yeah,
that's true. It is.
But
true.
you have 3, and 3 is almost.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
12. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you would have had Metroid 1, 2, and 3, and then Super Metroid, you'd be like, okay, I could see this now.
It's a world I want to live in.
That's a good point. That is a very good point. I think I play Super Mario World more often, and I'll probably go back to Super Mario World more, mainly just because it's easier to jump into, because Super Metroid and any Metroid game is such a big commitment. Exactly. But I do ultimately think it's the far superior. Okay, maybe not far superior. I think objectively it's a better game overall. So I'm sticking with my ranking on my list and staying with Super Metroid. But damn, that was hard.
Oh boy!
All right, cool. Solo something. What's your game? And give us a little something.
And it's hard to pick, like all of y'all are saying, between the two of them. I mean, Super Mario World gave us one of the most iconic characters. I mean, introduced like Yoshi to us. Super Mario World is definitely one that you can pick up and you play time and time and time again. Typically with Super Metroid, you're going to just play it, and once you beat it, you are not going to turn around in a couple weeks and be like, okay, I'll go play that. Or like a week later, okay, I'm going to go play that again now. Super Mario World, you definitely will play over and over throughout the week. So as far as a game that we want to play and enjoy for gameplay-wise, Super Mario World will definitely edge out Super Metroid. Story content-wise, I'd say Super Metroid is going to offer you more and bring you in more because there's more story content to it versus Super Mario World. Where Super Mario World just comes across as more just sheer entertainment value and its story. But if I'm going to just go straight up and pick one just off just gameplay, I'm going to have to just say, we all play games, just have fun, and something we want to really play time and time again. So, and I have a lot of memories with Super Mario World, so I'm going to go with Super Mario World.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I like that explanation. That makes a lot of sense. It's like, why do you play, I guess, is the question, Sam.
Consistent with my list, I will be voting for Super Metroid. I think part of it was sort of hit on earlier, like we got a lot more Mario games, so I think that's a lot of what steers my decision making, is that Metroid games just feel a lot more precious because we don't get them as often. Playing a Mario game is like eating pizza. Like, it's delicious.
I love
pizza. But it's kind of like, you have pizza all the time. You love pizza, but it's not something you do on special occasions, right? Playing Metroid is like eating swordfish. It's like, wow, this is like a luxury. This is something I don't get all the time. So it just feels more special to me.
All right, good deal. Sam, what's your pick?
Tim. Tim.
Sorry, Tim.
Super Metroid. Come on.
Let's go.
It's going to be Super Metroid. Even though Super Mario was higher on my list, it was because of the fact that it was the second game I beat in my, out of all the games I've ever beat in my life. So, but Super Metroid, why it was lower on my list is because I didn't feel right putting it higher because I didn't play it as much as those other games. But I played it later in life and enjoyed it just all the same. So I don't have the nostalgia for it. But because of that, I think it's also like, I can't say anything more than what all these everybody else who said about Metroid, more than what's been said already. But for me, it's just Super Metroid deserves a spot on the list and should be high on the list.
Right, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. All I wanted to hear was hear from you guys. That's it. That's it. All right. So we have a top 10. And I'm going to read it off, and I just want to hear from all y'all how we're feeling about it, and what, if you want to object to the list. Not that it might do anything, but I just want to hear your arguments. So here we go. At number 10, we have Street Fighter 2. Number 9, we have Yoshi's Island. Number 8, we have Donkey Kong Country. Number 7 is Mega Man X. Number 6 is Super Mario RPG. Number 5 is Donkey Kong Country 2. Number 4 is Chrono Trigger. Number 3 is Super Mario World. Number 2, Super Metroid. And number 1, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
It's a killer list.
I'm not
That's
mad.
a great list. That's the thing.
And we have honorable mentions. Bottom 5. After that is Turtles in Time, SimCity, Earthbound, Kirby Superstar, and Ogre Battle. So,
And no Star Fox whatsoever. Not a
one
single
mention.
Star Fox.
because it's not fun. It's not a good video game.
That first one
It's
is
fun.
pretty rough.
Yeah, we're not
It's-
talking about Star Fox 64
No.
here.
Yep.
yeah,
I don't
64
like.
is where it's at. No,
I own
agree.
it. I own it, and I
Yeah,
never
same.
want to play it.
Yeah, same.
It's still fun though.
I love Star Fox, but that game is not. It does.
I think Final Fantasy need an honorable mention on there too. I mean, I didn't have them on my list, but I do. I wanted to have them on there.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's
They
go
are-
around and do our honorable mentions. Everybody seems to have a couple. I'll go first. Star Fox is obviously mine. I love the character of Star Fox, but I don't recommend anybody go back and play that first Star Fox game. It just lags and it's not good for the series. And it was a tech demo. Star Fox 64, for my money, is the place to start in that series. My other honorable mention is Earthworm Jim. Not one mention of Earthworm Jim, who had like a really good showing on the 16-bit era. I think we all got a little sour on that game recently because we played it for Retro Rewind and realized that it does not hold up very well.
Number 2, I still like number 2.
It's good, but I think there was such an allure to that character back in the day that we kind of glossed over a lot of the problems of that platformer. That's just
I still hate the Flying King level.
yeah. There's just mini games in
it's
that
the worst.
game that did not have to exist. They're hilarious, but they're so bad. They're bad to play, not fun.
Yeah, the sort of absurd kind of stylings of those characters were very enamoring.
Oh yeah,
but
and
the
it's
game
a playable
itself-
cartoon. It's a playable
Yeah,
cartoon, which
exactly.
is really fun. John, what are your honorable mentions?
I think, for one, we have to at least mention. I don't think anybody mentioned one, but Mortal Kombat. Any
yeah.
of the probably either 3 or Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Probably like some of the better fighting games other than Street Fighter. And then even though it's not a game, the Super Game Boy.
Oh yeah, Super Game Boy. That's funny. Yeah. I posted a picture of my Super Nintendo games on Twitter, and I was like, "Hey, which of my games do you like the best?" And people were legit saying Super Game Boy. Like, it's not a game, bro. That's like, what's your favorite game? The controller's my favorite game. Okay,
It's an adapter.
The power cord. That's my favorite game. Okay, I just love it. It's so great. It's a brick. I can use it as self-defense.
Super Scope.
Super scope.
Super Scope.
Yoshi Safari though. Okay, Liam. Honorable mentions.
Yeah, I am a little surprised we didn't get a quintet on Sam's list. I played Soul Blazer for the first time last year and really enjoyed that game. Not enough to break my top 10, but all of those quintet games are tantalizing to me now that I've done my Soul Blazer play. So Terra Enigma, I feel like is the next one I want to
I'm in the
tackle.
market. I'm in the market for Soul Blazer, but that is a pricey one. So
Yeah,
you know.
I bought mine Japanese and then did the ROM thing because I'm like, that's legal. It's fine.
I have Illusion
a
of
cart.
Time that I need to get to. It's in
Yeah.
German, but I can read it.
I shouted out Mario Paint. I
love
am not
Mario
to toot not to toot my own horn here, but I also beat Lion King on the Super Nintendo, and I enjoed that game. So
Wow.
just saying, guys, you
Very good.
didn't know who you were in the presence of. But,
Good show.
and Zombies Ate My Neighbors. My friend Matt and I would clown around on that a ton. It was so weird. Like every 50 levels in, and we were like, I can't believe this game is still going. You know, yeah. So super fun.
All right. I gotta also shout out Mario Paint. I played it with my kids recently, and like I had the mouse, but they were kind of like telling me what to do. And we wrote a song, we did an animation, and then we like put it all together. And it's always fun. The Fly game, they were enamored with the Fly game.
Same.
And, like, they
Yeah,
suck
was
at
so
it,
fun.
but they were like, Dad, do the Fly game again, because I'm like a god at that game. So like it was so fun. Love it. Love Mario Paint.
We are in the presence of the fly swatter god.
Fly Swatter God.
Yeah, that's right.
Bow to me.
The flies.
Lord of the Flies. Oh, okay, Adam. Your honorable mentions.
So there's only one game left that was in my like honorable mentions or what would have been in my top 20 that haven't been talked about yet. So I'll only talk about this one for the sake of time. And that is a game that I only discovered even existed within the past 6 months or so. And it is Maui Mallard in Cold Shadow.
Nice.
So I was intrigued by this game because I love so many of the Disney, both the Disney Capcom games and the Disney Interactive games on NES and Super Nintendo. We will not get into which version of Aladdin is better because that is an endless debate that will go on in perpetuity.
That's its own podcast.
But what intrigued me about Maui Mallard in Cold Shadow is that anybody would look at this game and say, oh, it's Donald Duck. But due to some unexplainable licensing issues, it's technically not Donald Duck. It's Maui Mallard, who looks and is basically, the spitting image of Donald Duck. However, he is a ninja duck, and I honestly think it's the single most graphically impressive game on the Super Nintendo.
Oh wow.
You're fighting zombie ducks and pirate ducks and scaling volcanoes and under the ocean. You're a ninja duck, and I can't think of a more fun character to play in a 2D platforming beat 'em up than a ninja duck. And I love it. I've played it a bunch. I wish I had, played it when I was a kid and had more time to dig into the, pretty massive 2D levels, but that's the only one that still remains for me that hasn't already been talked about. And if you haven't played it before, I strongly recommend. If you're into, quirky 2D Super Nintendo games, it's super fun and really interesting, and honestly, has some awesome 2D 16-bit effects and graphics. And again, not to repeat myself, but I really honestly believe it's the most graphically impressive 16-bit game I've ever seen.
Okay, rad.
I want to know more about it just because from the Donald Duck thing, not being Donald Duck.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I tried to.
I'm going to go look it up.
I wasn't able to find very much information on it. It's like a game that clearly originally it was supposed to be Donald Duck.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the line, I don't know, but it's still Disney Interactive, so I have no idea what's going on.
And it's not too expensive, it looks like. I'm seeing it for like $30. That's cool. I might need to grab this.
Not too bad. It's really fun, and it's a very it is just a graphically impressive game, and I know that's not the end all be all, which is why it's not really in my top 10. But the gameplay is fun too. Lots of really fun 2D platforming mechanics and ninja action to be had. So
good deal.
Highly recommend it.
Solo something. Your honorable mention?
Yeah, my honorable mentions, they've already been kind of mentioned some, but for me, I wanted to have like the Final Fantasy III in there, because that's really where it kind of really takes off. That's where you get the girl that you can kind of, you can really get the summons that really start taking, those kind of come into play. And so if anyone ever wants to get into like playing like some of the actual older Final Fantasy games, I would say if you really want to kind of get to like really where it starts getting fun in my book, I'd say start doing 3. And now they're actually starting to come. They're all getting coming to the Switch. And I've seen a lot of people posting in Discord about like they're ordering it from Play Asia, or they're actually buying the digital copies. I know Tim's already loaded up his dashboard on his Switch, and so he has plenty of Final Fantasy to chew on. And so that would be one of my honorable mentions. And another one I would have had is actually another staple I've had in the Nintendo franchise that I've always enjoyed playing is the actual Mega Man games ever since back the NES days. And Sam has already mentioned the Mega Man game that I would have honorably mentioned. And because I've always enjoyed playing the Mega Man games. And, the mechanics kind of carry over, but they've introduced new characters. But I've always had that as a cornerstone of my the Nintendo fanboy that I am.
Sweet. Yeah, Mega Man X made it to the top 10, so definitely a good one. It was like barely squeaked off my list. So Sam, honorable mentions, let's do it.
Yeah, I have a lot, but I guess in general, honorable mention to Super Famicom games that didn't release in the US. I excluded those purposefully from my list. There are probably a couple that I would try to find a way to squeeze in, but since you asked for top Super Nintendo games and not Super Famicom games, you could make a case for Terranigma since it did release in Europe. But of course, Terranigma, also Front Mission, which I discovered recently. It's just been something that I've been having a lot of fun recently playing fan translation patches and things, especially Front Mission Gun Hazard, which does play into another honorable mention, which is Cybernator, because Front Mission Gun Hazard is basically Cybernator, but also an RPG set in the Front Mission universe. It's great. Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War, and also a game I've been playing recently, Marvelous Another Treasure Island, which is also plays a lot like Zelda A Link to the Past because it's built in the same engine. And it was actually Eiji Onuma's first game that he directed.
Oh, wow.
I've had a lot of fun playing that as well. I have not finished it yet either, though. I mentioned Cybernator already. Also, the Gomon games, especially the later ones, I think are an improvement. I thought about putting the first, which we did get over here, Legend of the Mystical Ninja. But I think the later games are even better. And let's see. Also, shout out to Phantom 2040. It's a game I really want to go back and beat. It's like very complicated. It has like a bajillion endings. The passwords are super long, and I got stuck and couldn't figure out what to do, so I gave up, but I really want to finish it someday. It's a very dark horse pick.
Okay, yeah. Never even heard of it.
Yeah. Also, I thought briefly about the Koei strategy games. That's another thing I've been trying to get into, but haven't really put the time in with to come to a conclusion on yet.
Sweet.
Like Romance of the Three Kingdoms and all the derivatives of that.
Well, listener, there's a short list for you to get started if you want to get into some real weird stuff on the Super Nintendo. But Sam's always just such a good wealth of stuff that like I would never even know existed. So good stuff. Love it. All right, Tim, your honorable mentions.
Sure. Briefly, I'll shout out Super Castlevania 4 as well. That's an honorable mention for me because I never got to play that when it originally came out. I played it much later for, might have been actually for a retro rewind type thing. So shout out to that one. But I also want to point out Super Mario All-Stars. Even though it was a compilation of games, it is the reason why I got to replay a lot of the NES games, including, although I didn't beat Super Mario 3 in that version of it. I didn't beat Super Mario 3 until the Game Boy version of it with the e-reader. But All-Stars was the reason why I was able to even play some of those NES games, even though they were rehashes and 16-bit upgrades. Because, as I said, I didn't have an NES. I bought my first system was my Super Nintendo. So when the All-Star game came out, that's how I got to play those. So that's why I would mention that as an honorable mention.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I mean, if you want to get technical, Super Mario World plus Super Mario All-Stars should probably be number 3 and not just Super Mario World. But, nobody said it. What's wrong, guys?
Okay, so just briefly, and I know I've mentioned this before, I'm not personally a fan of the Mario All-Stars versions of the NES games, but that's probably because I not literally, that's the wrong word. I cut my teeth on those NES games. Like the first NES game I ever played was Super Mario. The first non-pack-in game that I ever purchased was Super Mario Brothers 2. And Mario Brothers 3, getting that game for my birthday was one of the biggest moments of my childhood. So those games are just ingrained in me as a person. So playing them years later on Super Nintendo, I was like, what did they do? They ruined these games. And I know
I never understood that because I started with the Super Nintendo, but then when it came to NSO, I played the Game Boy Advance version of Mario 3, and I'm like, oh, this is how people feel when they play All-Stars that played the NES Mario 3.
For sure. Yeah.
I've never even played the GBA versions, so that would probably be even worse for me personally. I don't fault anybody for preferring the Super Mario All-Stars versions of those games, but as someone who played just countless childhood hours and so many summer vacations and Saturdays spent playing Mario 2 and Mario 3, it's like those games feel like gaming platforming perfection to me, and I can't do the Super Nintendo version. I can't. But that's just me. That's just because that's how I experienced those original games, and the Mario All-Stars version doesn't do it for me, but it deserves an honorable mention for sure.
Well, thank you guys for struggling through making your top 10s. I know it's a task. I know it's hard. It was hard for me too. There's a lot of stuff I couldn't put on my list that I wanted to. So
thank you guys. Like with this, we're celebrating the 100th episode of this show, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Dan, John, Sam, congrats, guys. Like, this is
congratulations.
such a huge deal to have hit that sort of milestone. I know, Tim, you're like 400 something episodes into Nintendo Dads at this point, but like,
no, this is awesome.
100 episodes is wild. That is a body of work.
It's been a ride
for creating this community.
It's been a ride. Yeah. And in some ways the podcast is now kind of like the podcast is almost like secondary to what the community has become. It's like more about the community than about any podcast that we do. But so I have some news that I need to get out on the show, and that is that I'm actually going to be taking a hiatus from hosting a podcast for a little while. I think that I have overloaded myself with responsibility in my current place in life, and something has to give. And as much as I adore the podcast and doing the podcast, it's something that I can no longer upkeep with at the level of quality that I want to, and with what we're doing. So it's only the podcast hosting, though. I'm going to be all over the Discord and all over Twitter still. And I gave John and Sam the option to either put the show on hiatus or to keep going with either a new host or with guests or something. And they decided they're going to keep it going for as long as they feel like they can, or until I come back. And so we're going to make some announcements on that soon. But this might be the last time you hear my voice for a little bit. But I've got some other coals in the fire that I'm working on, not game related, but you'll hear about them. And again, I'll be on Discord and I'll be in the conversation and everything, and still moderating and all that, and making sure things are up to snuff. I just can't commit to the creation side of this anymore. So I'm bowing out gracefully for now. I'm very confident that I'll be back because the podcasting bug has bit me hard. But I think you're right, Liam. Like 100 episodes, like I think most podcasts that stop at like 5.
Yeah, I mean, if you search that stuff, you'll find 20 at max for most things.
Exactly. So I'm glad that it's going to keep going, and I'm proud of how much things have expanded, and Retro Groove and Film Logic and On Topic Retro and the blog, which all like kind of sprouted their own legs and kept growing on their own. And I'm here. I'm still here. So it's kind of a weird goodbye. It's like not goodbye because I'm still here, but things are going to be a little different from now on. But I need to sort of sort some stuff out. So I'll get back to you guys, but for now that is what it is.
Dan, it's like it's like what we said over in the Nintendo Dads. We've had a similar conversation about this because of how long, longer than me, like Justin, Jesse, Marty have all been doing this longer than me, but almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years next year. So, but what we've all learned is that when you've started something like what you've started, it's gone beyond Dan. It's so it's like
that's
you've
the
got
goal.
this
honestly.
retro.
That's
right. It's a retro
goal is
community.
That it outlives
so.
me. So
it allows you to be able to step away, but it still goes on, and then you can always come back or pop in every once in a while or whatever the case may be. But it's still RetroLogic, and then everybody is because of the community too. Everybody's understanding and it's like, yeah, sure, whatever. We know you're around. We'll see you again when you're ready. So
yeah, that's definitely
yeah,
for sure. Well, I appreciate that, you guys, and retro gaming is still just a huge part of my life. I'm not selling everything, and I went through some weird phases where I was like, I should just sell everything and do this or whatever, and I'm a very impulsive person, but luckily I don't act on all of that because I can't even imagine right now if I was like, why did I sell everything? I'm a huge idiot.
Didn't we talk about this before?
Yeah, you've already done this once.
Yeah.
So there's a pretty hard
man.
bar there in my wall. Yeah, exactly. There's a pretty hard wall in my head over that. I can't
when you think about selling anything, you get a box at the bank, in the vault, and put everything in there.
I know. Well, you know what it is now,
away.
honestly, and then I'll end on this. You know what it is now? It's that if I don't sell something in the RetroLogic community and just like go right through PayPal, the fees for selling on any website are bananas. It's like I was trying to sell my Super Nintendo and everything, and I had to like keep lowering the price because nobody was biting. And at some point I was at like $300, and they're gonna take $50 or $60 of that, and I'm like, what am I actually doing here? Like, all of this is worth way more than $250 to my soul. What is happening? So I immediately took it off for sale, and I was just like, okay, let's like rethink exactly what's happening here, So, and then if it sells in RetroLogic, I at least feel good about like, I know where it's going, I know who has it, I know it's going to a good home. It's not some reseller or whatever. So
what you do is you give it to your brother.
Shut up.
So it stays in the family.
I'm not even. I told you. Yeah, whatever. Shut up. At any rate, we're gonna wrap things up here. Thank you for listening to the RetroLogic podcast. We are proudly part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts. If you like what you hear, you can check me out on Twitter at RetroLogic Games. You can also find all the information about all the stuff you heard tonight, the Discord and the blog and all the podcasts at our website, which is retrologic.games. And with that, see y'all in the next one. Happy 100.
Bye.
I know.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Is it weird that the Super Game Boy almost made my top 10 list?
I didn't know if that would count.
I know, it's so good though.
Yeah.
So
technically,
no,
it's hardware.
It's not a game.
It opens up the whole.
Well, and anything to reduce the number of hard decisions you have to make, right?
There are games.
Claim it.
There are games
You can just
included.
say it doesn't count so that you don't have to feel bad for not putting it in, right?
It'll go in my honorable mentions then.
Gosh, I wish I had room for Kirby on there. I guess I could have dropped a Donkey Kong Country game, but that's so off-brand for me. All right, let's go.
You're number one clay fighter.
How'd you know?
Everyone's number one is Plock. Calling it now.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
Everyone but me.
Okay, let's do
Massive plot twist.
it. Let's jump in. 1, 20,
Block twist.
20. I'll do 35. Okay.
Did you just say Plock Twist?
Yes.
So good.
Yes.
Block twist.
That's incredible.
That's great.
The Plock twist is actually my signature dance move.
Yes.
I can only do it once, though. It involves dislocating all of my limbs.
Right, exactly.
You only need to do it once.
Throwing them at somebody.
Call me. I'm a physical therapist, Sam. I'll straighten you out for free.
Nice.
This is getting weird. Okay, here we go. Jumping back in.